If I was just another college girl who does porn, this would have been like a day of news. But I think that because I came out in defense of myself, and because I really talked about how much porn empowered me and I really told my story, I think that that's what set this story apart.
Now, what's interesting to me about that clip that we showed is him saying to you, assuming, we can assume that you're intelligent because of this thing. Otherwise, we would assume that you're not intelligent because of this other thing.
Right. And actually, I was just on a radio show and we were discussing this. It was, yeah, it was a radio show I was on, and they pointed out that I would never be able to get a job, and they said that I could have done other work because sex work isn't real work. It's not an honest day's labor. I could have done an honest day's labor.
Sex work is a job.
Yes, and that's what they weren't understanding. And they kept saying that sex work was not work, and I could have done, you know, something honest. So, you know, the other thing about what he's saying is that we're really caught in this catch-22. You know, if I was a girl who was doing porn and I was not going to school, he would have said to me, "You're doing nothing with your life. You have no future plans." I'm in school. I'm getting my education. I'm doing, you know, things with my life, and I'm getting criticized too. So there's really no way for, you know, women to win in this patriarchal society.
Have you found that your porn life is conflicting with your school life in any way? Not just of the response that you've had from students and administrators on campus, I want to get into that in a minute, but just in terms of your ability to study, your grades. I think there's a lot of questions about, you're doing a media tour, you know, you're doing porn as well, you're dancing tonight, you're dancing at headquarters in New York City. Are these things getting in the way of your time that could be spent studying?
Well, absolutely. You know, being harassed and being threatened and having all of this attention on me, it's definitely very distracting, but I value my education. It's the reason, you know, I did porn. So, you know, my priority is my education, and I'm going back to Duke, you know, right away. I needed time away in order to get my head straight because I didn't feel it was a safe environment for me to be there.
Talk to me about why it wasn't a safe environment, what you experienced there, the kind of threats that were lobbied against you.
Well, there were multiple Twitter threats that range from "we're going to throw trash on you, go Duke frats," to
they ended with "go Duke frats"?
Yeah, go Duke frats, and then
God.
And then "you should go slit your wrist and die, you stupid B word."
You can swear.
You stupid bitch. You're a whore. You mean nothing. And there's literally petitions circulating around Duke and around the web to get me expelled.
So how has the administration responded to this? I'm sure that you've had to have meetings with members of student affairs, deans of student affairs, members of the administration. I'm not sure how high up you've had to go, but what has their response been?
Well, the Duke administration has been extremely supportive of me, and they've actually, you know, they're working with me to make sure I'm safe. But, you know, what's interesting to me is, you know, I also look at my story as a statement on the state of public education, or not public, of the state of higher education in America. You know, what's really funny is just a few days ago, Duke approved a tuition hike of about, I think it was 3.4%. I just thought it was interesting that that's how they're responding to this.
What's interesting to me about the conversation that's been built around you is when we talk about you being a sex worker because of tuition costs, we end up sort of putting the sex worker back in the place of
the desperate exchange,
the desperate need because of an economical reason, rather than a personal decision to do the work, which I think is a weird sort of justification for you. How do you respond to that? Because it's part of why you're doing it, but it's also your decision.
Well, I absolutely understand people's hesitation, and I totally understand why people have that misconception. But to clarify, you know, first of all, you could consider any job to be a desperate exchange. You know, a lawyer goes to work for money. It's a job, you know. I do porn for money because it's a job. We do things for money, and that doesn't necessarily make it a desperate exchange. But second of all, I've been very clear that porn was not my only option. My options, given that my tuition bill was $4,300 a month, my options were essentially to take out private loans that would have put me in debt for decades, or find another alternative way to pay it. And with my skill set, I'm 18 years old. I don't really have any skills, and the state of the economy, wherein I could literally apply for hundreds of jobs and get no calls back, which I'd experienced in the job application process. I did not feel that there were very, very viable options. I didn't want to go into debt. And so I decided to look at sex work as an option. That doesn't mean it was my only option, and I completely respect people who would choose to take out loans, but it was my choice.
What was it like making that choice? Was it difficult for you, or was it something that you just wanted to jump in and do?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it was something I kind of just jumped into.
Any regrets?
I do have some regrets. Yeah. The first one was, the primary one was not telling my parents and not telling my family. I know a lot of girls in the industry who their parents don't know they do porn, and I will say from personal experience, it is extremely isolating to, be going, across the country, going to all these shoots, and know that nobody in the world knows where you are. So I regret
Especially
not
doing
telling.
something that could, and I'm sure for the most part you're working on very safe sets,
Yes,
very
absolutely,
safe crews,
yeah.
but there is the possibility for risk in the
Totally.
porno industry. How did you know when you took this leap, when you decided to do this, that you were going to be taken care of, that this was going to be the right leap and you weren't going to be put in dangerous situations?
Well, this is another piece of advice I would give to any girl considering doing sex work. I very heavily researched. I researched all of the agencies that were talking to me. I researched, who I would be working with. So that's what I would recommend to girls who are considering doing sex work. But you're completely right. There really was no assurance that I would show up to LA and the agent I would meet wouldn't kill me.
This is HuffPost Live. I'm Ricky Camilleri. After being outed by a fellow Duke undergrad, Belle Knox is now famously known as the Duke porn star. But Belle started the year as a college freshman with a blossoming porn career that helped cover her college costs. And as we've recently seen through Twitter and the media backlash cast on her, it's not that easy to be a woman who decides on her own accord to be a sex worker. Joining us now to discuss just what's happened to her this past month, Duke freshman and porn star Belle Knox. Belle, thank you so much for joining me.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible month for you.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Let's start with the beginning of the roller coaster, the outing you. You felt when you started your career in porn that you could probably remain not anonymous, but you could remain anonymous on the campus.
Yes.
As a porn star.
And that was naive. Unfortunately, we live in a culture where it's so acceptable to out people, whether it be outing them as gay or whether it be outing them for being a sex worker. So it was naive of me to think that I could remain anonymous, but I did. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that in being outed, while at first it was a curse, it must have felt like a curse, it's become a bit of a blessing for you in the way that you can sort of approach this discussion surrounding sex workers?
Yeah, absolutely. At first it was so bad that, I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I literally just wanted to pack up my bags, cry, and go home. But I've had, ever since I wrote my first my article in XO Jane, where I really detailed why it is that people have such an issue with sex work, and I spoke about the intricacies of sex work and of female sexuality. I've really started a dialogue in this country. And I've had so many sex workers and former sex workers, email me and say, thank you so much for standing up for me, and thank you so much for giving us a voice. Mm-hmm. And I went on The View yesterday. I'm the porn star to ever go on The View.
The first porn star to ever go on The View.
So
Can we just say congratulations? That's phenomenal.
It's congratulations to all sex workers. It's like we're breaking down barriers.
Did you feel that they were open to you as a guest? I've read some coverage of it saying that they talked down to you a little bit, that they responded to you the way that mainstream media normally responds to sex workers, which is a bit of judgment and disdain.
Well, I do think that they came into it, and the questions were posed in a bit of a judgmental tone, but you know, the women on the panel supported me, except for, you know, Sherry Shepard. She made the comment that I was breaking her heart, which was incredibly condescending, and completely ignored, you know, my sexual autonomy. But Whoopi Goldberg, I got a write-on from Whoopi Goldberg when I said my comment about how sex workers are the untouchables of society, and I'm sick of it.
Wow.
So, and Whoopi Goldberg, she actually gave me a hug afterwards.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean.
You've got a friend in Whoopi.
I do have a friend in
Yeah.
Whoopi. She's amazing.
It's interesting to watch all this media that you're doing, all this press